Yeah, we're live.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon from here, from my side. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all our listeners from anywhere you are from. I'm very happy to be here again today. And this is another edition of Climate Wednesday. And our focus this month is based on nature-based solution. And we're driving this conversation with the Regeneration Nigeria. And we are trying to see how nature-based adaptation is a very big conversation in the space presently. And I'm very happy once again to tell you that this month's series is going to be a lot of engagement, a lot of conversation, a lot of question and answer. And we're also going to be having fantastic speakers, that is going to be engaging with us as we move on. So I want to use this opportunity to welcome everybody to this edition of nature-based solution. And another thing again I want you to know is that as we are kicking off this month, we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and our Twitter handle on all our social media platforms. You can just join now and watch. So let us know that this month edition is going to be focusing more not only on Nigeria but generally Africa and across the world, because the conversation is getting deeper every day. And I'm very happy that we're able to also discuss about this in a national level, regional level, and international level. So once again, thank you very much for coming on board, for everybody that is joining us from everywhere now. This is Climate Wednesday, and my name is 𝐁𝐢𝐨𝐝𝐢𝐈𝐻𝑒𝑚. I'm the co-founder of International Climate Change Development Initiative. Our platform is here to build climate smart generation across Africa. And I'm very happy to also welcome our speaker, our wonderful brother from another part of Nigeria. I'm very happy because he has given us that opportunity to also engage him again on this platform and to have him to come and discuss this wonderful topic. And I know that a lot of you guys will be waiting to hear from him. Every first conversation we have on different topics, we always make sure that we want somebody that will give us the in-depth of that such conversation, so that while we are going into the month, we'll be able to say that, yes, we have the basic and we are now moving deep into the conversation. So let me use this opportunity to welcome our guest speaker today, Ambassador Richard Umar.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much.
sir.
Thank you very much, 𝐁𝐢𝐶. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
as
thank
always.
you very thank you very much. And getting in touch with you in so very short time, we are very happy that you're able to make it. And this shows that the commitment and the dedication for the environment space is one of the great things that we need to be doing, both as young people and as a civil society, as everybody that has a passion for the environment. So let me quickly start by going straight into what we have today. Our topic today is biodiversity and nature-based solution. I want to quickly, before we go into the topic itself, can you please tell us about yourself, how you started, what inspired you for what you are doing? I remember we met in 2019 in Paris, in Madrid during COP, and I had a conversation with you on an interview, which I think everybody is watching every time now. I want to know what inspired you to do what you do, and what are you doing presently? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, 𝐁𝐢𝐶, and thank you for the opportunity to have me on Climate Wednesday. Yeah, as a young climate activist, I started at a very early age, in 2007, when I met a group of I met a group of young, inspired, driven climate activists in Abuja at the first national conference of the Nigerian Young Greens. So that was where I first met Esther Agbarakwe. Then she was coordinating for Nigeria, and I met Cosmos. I met a lot of young people, Mutala Adogi and the rest. They were so vibrant, and I picked the interest, and we just swung into the climate world. And ever since, when I look back and I look at the progress that we've achieved from that time till now as young people, one will be imagining, like, when did you start? Like, how come you have all these milestones? And to the glory of God, we've been able to make our mark known, even not even in Nigeria, and even on the African continent, and even on the West African region, because we've been able to build a network of young people that have taken action to ensure that the message of climate change reaches the peak of authorities, reaches the people in local communities. And all our activities over the years has really shown that we really believe in the impact of climate change. We really understand the dangers involved, and we really need to know what to do in terms of mitigation and adaptation. And these have made us to create activities that have involved younger people. We've taken the campaigns to schools, we've taken the campaigns to traditional rulers, to communities where they are the ones that are first respondent, permit me to use that word, when the effect or impact of climate change comes, especially like, let's say, like Niger State, where I'm from, is a state bordered with major rivers, and we have water bodies. We have 4 major dams that houses the hydroelectrical power of Nigeria. So we are like a vulnerable state and a potential state when it comes to translating the challenge into a resource. You understand? So we just have to be on our toes, because we have the largest landmass in Nigeria, 76,000 square meters. So you can imagine the landmass from the border of a country to the heart of Nigeria that's how big Niger State is. So we have huge conservation, which we are losing every day, and we have huge water bodies, which we have, and we're taking advantage of it for green energy, for clean, renewable and clean energy. So this is the environment where I found myself, and I have to become very, very proactive in ensuring that we push our advocacy to the right people, to the right channels, and keep government on its toes in knowing what to do, when to do, and when to act, because these are inevitable situations that we find ourselves that we just have to live with. So far so good. We've been able to partner with UNDP to build a demonstration forest in Niger State College of Education, in partnership with Niger State College of Education and the Ministry of Environment of Niger State, because we have 25 local governments and young people come to Niger State College of Education to study. So we now made it like an extracurricular activity, even with the Department of Agriculture, to make students own a tree to water. We built a forest and we allocated each tree to a student, and it forms part of their curriculum CA. And they water that tree, they get nurtured, and it gets supervised, and they get marks for it. So that's how far we've been able to go, and we were able to get interns from Southampton University in UK and AOSA University in UK as well. We got 2 interns working with us in our forest, and they came all the way from UK to have 1 or 2 things to do with us on the forest, and we're able to impact that knowledge on younger people by holding workshops for young people, for schools, especially secondary schools within Niger State, within Mina, to teach them the importance of forestation and how to manage them. So we've been doing a lot of work across board, and we've been able to add value. It was a gradual growth, because my organization till this point is a community-based organization, it's not an NGO. So in order to maintain the tempo between the grassroots and table issues of what native dwellers face in this part of the world on global tables when the opportunities are given. So far so good. That's what Youth Voyage of Nigeria have been able to achieve, and we are still working on a lot of projects to see that in fact, we are working on a project now to see how we can achieve 1 million tree planting within 3 years. That's one of the projects we are working on, and we are trying to see how we can achieve that in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah.
Let me give you a round of applause for that. That was very detailed. I really,
Yeah.
it's about the implementation now. It's about the work. It's not about
Yeah.
the talk. And I
Yeah.
think it's also very good that you share that story as we're starting this conversation, because what you are just doing is in line with the nature-based solution. And
Yeah.
a lot of people always think that uh, uh, you doing what you know how to do best is wasting time. Sometimes
Yeah.
something that when passion meets your kind of person, there's no how you really want to do a lot of things. And I think what you are doing in your local community, you just said something again that the organization is still is a community based. I think
Yeah.
that is the kind of platform that actually need the conversation we call the bottom approach.
Yeah.
And I think you've already, start looking at the best opportunity to make sure that you meet the need of your community by carrying them along, showing them the way, and letting them to understand that climate action, environmental issue is something that is within, is something that comes from within, not just
Yeah.
a talking matter. So thank you very much for that. And I can say that we are seeing what you are doing from this side, and we wish you all the best for what you are doing. Quick one, let's go straight into our conversation today. As
Yeah.
a climate activist, as a sustainable development tutorizer, as a, let me call you, a community-based mobilizer, when you hear the word nature-based solution, what does it
Yeah.
mean to you? What does it mean to you? And how do you want to explain to a layman or the generation that is watching us from all over the world, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. Nature-based solution as it affects climate change is these are solutions that can be found within the environment of people where these effects of climate change affect the most. Like for example, communities where they suffer flood, they have to understand adaptation. They have to understand early warning signs. So you create a solution for them that is within their own locality. What is that thing they need to do? When are they supposed to do it? And when do they need to act? Like in Niger State, for example, we've been facing a lot of challenges when it comes, especially the natives understanding climate change. At times, they will tell you they cannot relocate because this is where their heritage is. This is where they buried their forefathers. When flood is coming, the government gives early warning signs. NIMET gives early warning signs. The rain will be intense this year. The dams cannot be able to hold it. So you might need to temporarily move to a location. Then you start having challenges. But these are approaches that government use without having full community engagement. You understand? These are challenges as well. But let's remain within the solutions. Like solutions now that nature-based solutions are local technologies that work within these local communities. Like for example, in Nigeria, we are faced with deforestation. The natives are cutting down trees as fuel wood and are producing charcoal every day. When I mean charcoal in commercial quantity, they don't need it, but they produce it because it's an export. They use it as foreign exchange. They get foreign exchange from charcoal production illegally. So now, the major challenge to this now, the major solution to this now is to provide an alternative economy for them so that they can allow trees grow. Like for example, introducing now briquette making is a local technology that looks like charcoal, biochar briquette making. These are new technologies that you can use byproducts from trees, branches, not even felling the whole tree, but you can cut branches. You can design a model of collecting your raw materials that does not affect the conservation. and you produce biochar to replace charcoal. These can still be done in a way to meet um, export expectations, but they find it easy because the trees are just standing. They just enter into the wild, make a big ditch, cut down fresh trees, and just burn them. And if you see the huge amount of carbon it emits, you can imagine the damage it does to the ozone. So you see, it's an adverse effect of human activity, but nature-based solution supposed to come as a solution within the local. What can they do within their local vicinity to serve as solutions to climate change, to all these human activities? And these are little solutions that can be absorbed, but it's unfortunate that we must call government at each time to create that enabling platform, to create to kickstart that conversation, because as community, even as community-based organizations, civil society, we have our limits to what we can do. There are a lot of what they call them alternatives to these solutions. Like for example, now riverine communities, don't government don't need to spend huge amount of money to connect them to national grid. They can as well just create solar energy hubs for communities, because the sun is just wasting. And again, riverine communities, there's a technology now where you can provide them electricity. It's just like a canoe that it runs on the water, and as it runs around the water, it generates energy for the community. And again, we have gotten young inventors now, like for example in Nigeria, that have like there's a young man in Yobe that has generated a small turbine that can generate electricity for riverine communities. It's just to just put it by the riverbank. As it propels the water current propels it, it generates electricity. These little technologies need to be harnessed. The appropriate MDAs, like in Nigeria or in Africa, need to identify all these young people and see how they can domesticate these technologies and use them to provide local as in nature-based solutions for little challenges that affect communities. Now there's a technology now on flood water management, where flood water is being harvested and being used for fresh water consumption. That is, when the rains are over, the water board now can now use the flood water as fresh water, as alternative source of fresh water, instead of allowing the water to just go into the open ocean. These are new technologies that can solve the issue of flooding for communities that are affected. These are nature-based solutions. It's all about creating big underground dams, what they call it, tanks, that can absorb a particular quantum of water when the flood comes, and is channeled to those reservoirs. Then when the rains are over, when there are no longer high flow of fresh water, the water boards can revert back to those flood water and recycle them and use them as fresh water. You see, these are nature-based solutions that are globally inclined, but that can be adopted locally here to our own advantage. But how can all these solutions come to bear? Like now, okay, like in Niger State, young people just they help me with power. Niger State, young people just, can you hear me, Olumide? Yeah, so young people have developed an incinerator now as I speak to you. The incinerator can power, you use it to manage waste. You use you collect plastic, excuse me, plastic bottles, polythene bags, and it is used as an incinerator. And the gas and the the smoke they're supposed to emit is being collected. So it doesn't emit methane. You understand? Then it's being channeled into a cylinder that can serve as cooking gas. This is a nature-based solution. This is a local technology by local young people. So this is number one, managing waste. You're cutting down waste, you're doing waste management, and you're converting waste into renewable and usable clean energy for cooking. Now we have a group of young people now that have, now that, like in Nigeria, we don't have a sewage system for now. We don't have a complete sewage system. But we've gotten young people that have converted soccerways of residents to generate cooking gas, clean cooking gas as a solution. So you see, if government really want to adopt all these mechanisms and put them into practice, they want to adapt all these mechanisms and put them into action, then definitely they would have to harness this, what they call it, these local technologies and put them into action. Communities now can have a central drainage system, and not to use fuel wood again. They can have a central sockaway system, sorry, where they can now convert it into cooking gas. Then the more they evacuate their waste, they do their they use the sockaway is in use, the more they generate cooking gas for themselves. So you see, automatically they wouldn't need charcoal, they wouldn't need fuel wood, they wouldn't need, our conservation will be standing. We can enjoy carbon sink because of conservation, because we can encourage communities now to go into tree planting, and the trees can stay because they don't need firewood again to cook. So all these are solutions that local technologies are provided that can be put in use in communities where we have the effect of maybe deforestation and serious climate change activities. So these are all solutions that I feel, if properly harnessed and channeled by the appropriate MDAs, or government, if government is serious about the Paris Agreement and about the cutting down the NDCs, then we have to look at all these local technologies and see how, and these technologies are very, very affordable. They are affordable in terms of if government want to really come and domesticate and put them into use.
Wow, 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 wow. I think you actually did like a summary of nature-based solution and some key important things that people are actually doing on ground. That was very, very deep. And if we have all this initiative, all this innovation in some states in Nigeria, I think there's still hope for our ecosystem. And it just need to identify the key areas and the key implementation strategy to make sure that all these things are in place. Because some of the key things you've mentioned here are kind of nature-based solution that a country needs to invest into. Because the more we invest into this, the more our environment, we don't need to talk about pollution again. This now takes me to the conversation on biodiversity. What is the linkage? What do you think is the linkage of the nature-based solution and the biodiversity? Because everything we're talking about falls down to the biodiversity, to the nature. So what do you think is the linkage of this conversation that we are having?
Yeah, the link here is quite very glaring, because one, if you look at it technically, biodiversity has to do with the entire species living on Earth, entire living organisms, humans, animals, life on water, life on sea, like the SDGs goals imply, and our even water and sanitation as well. All is embedded. Climate action, all these are embedded even on the SDG goal 2030 agenda. So Biodiversity is key because it has to do with us, it has to do with the ecosystem, it has to do with our well being, our welfare, and our day to day survival, which is very key to our health, very key to even the food we eat. It affects all diversity because it has to do with even the species, the genes, it has to do with the functionality of how we manage our resources. And all these are the types of biodiversity that we as humans, even animals, and even living organisms under the water, life underwater, all experience. It's like a recycle, it's like a continuous process, like we do every day. So now, linking biodiversity to nature base, it has a lot to do with information and understanding. Information and understanding. Now, the local man in the village doesn't know the difference between a chemical fertilizer and an organic fertilizer. You tell him organic based fertilizer, how does he understand it? How does he match his Is he concerned about the soil fertility? Is he concerned about the rains coming to wash the topsoil and the chemicals he has applied in his farm that goes into the water bodies and affect the ecosystem in the water bodies? So all these have to do with proper information in terms of uh, people understanding how their activities affect their entire existence as humans, as it affects the livelihood of even the fishes in the water, even the aquatic life, as it affects the soil and the living organisms under the soil and under the ground. You understand? So all these are human activities that we have to advocate for people to understand that there's a link between everything we do on earth to how it gets back to us in our own existence and in our own livelihood. From driving our car, from starting our generators, from using every human activity that has a lot to do with fossil fuel, carbon emission, and felling of trees, and all these things. It has a lot to do with our own existence. So we have to know how to manage our desire for profit, because most of us have our businesses built around all these things I've mentioned, and it affects our biodiversity. So nature-based solution now has more to do with adding the impact now, reducing the impact or the effect of our daily activities, because if we are now very conscious of how detrimental our own human activities are, how it affects the climate, how it depletes the ozone, and in effect change the entire weather calendar. There's no any we cannot have a assertive weather projection because the climate cannot be predictable again. We can just be speculating, but the climate can change at any time it deems fit. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. And if you want me to just give an example of how this affects us, like during the COVID, during the pandemic, it was a total lockdown. There were no flights, there was no emission in the ozone. Even in China, there were cities that have not seen the blue sky in a very long time. But because of the halt in human activities, industrialized nations were on pause, or will I say on pause? Permit me to use pause. All the emitting entities that emit into the atmosphere were on lockdown. So it gives room for the people to see the serenity of how the environment can be without all these industrialized activities. That is to say, we are our own problem in a challenge that we see every day. You understand? So the pandemic was able to give the effects. There were some birds that were not living in some particular environment, but they were seeing them coming back. That's to tell you that the climate is now friendly, is now okay for us to stay. But what happens again if the world now goes back to its normal routine? Then definitely all those things, all those experiences will go again because it has to do with us. So, like for example, in Niger State, we have an Air Force base in New Busa. New Busa is a border community between Nigeria and Benin Republic. Babana, New Busa, Wawa, there's a border there. So there's a wildlife there. That's the New Busa National Park, 𝐁𝐢𝐸𝐸 National Park is there, where you have what do you call it? We have wildlife there. You can see chimpanzees rolling freely. You can see elephants. But now the elephants there have relocated to Benin Republic because they have to change the environment because of the Air Force activity that happens at the military Air Force base there in New Busa. The sound of the aircraft, their low flying zone, all these things, have now made the elephants to migrate to Benin Republic. So you can see how human activities can affect the ecosystem and make life uncomfortable for even wildlife and push them. And we here can be seeing that, okay, the Air Force are doing their normal drills to keep the country safe and stuff like that. That's our own benefit. But how does it affect the ecosystem and affect even the livelihood of our wildlife and stuff like that? So these are all the things that the linkages, that the link between human-based solution and biodiversity and how it affects us directly. So we need to really, really look at, I don't want to be elaborate in terms of trying to link it to maybe carbon, NDC, the carbon court. I just want us to remain within the status quo of our discussion so that I don't overstep my boundary. So this is a clear example on how best we can learn from this during this pandemic and see how we can move our conversations hard to see how best we can really see that Paris Agreement comes to bear in order to make the climate a more safer and more homely place for every species. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And all the questions I should have asked you, you actually compressed them into this. But as we promised that we're not going to be here more than 45 minutes. And I quickly want to say that you've touched on so many key things that actually happens starting from last year during the pandemic and getting to where we are today. And one key thing I would say is that for me, I think nature is our infrastructure, according to an article that was published by WWF. And truly, the conversation that they are telling us that Build Back Better, that we must plan our infrastructure with nature in mind and harness its power in the face of climate change. And this is something that everybody has been speaking about, because you mentioned a lot about the COVID-19. You mentioned, and as the COVID crisis continues, I think we are still in now, and it's causing unclear. Okay, let me say it's a little bit clear now that the virus is is phasing out, or let's say the vaccine is out. So in terms of infrastructure development, there's been an increase for a lot of people to see that we build back better, because our nature is very, very important. And one of the key conversations for the past 2 months that the global leaders are talking about is the green recovery, from the pandemic. And you can see a lot of people injecting funding, injecting conversation, solution into the nature. And this has been something that is including building long-term resilience for a lot of countries. And I think it's also something that you've mentioned about examples of how the wildlife are, moving away from their places, and I remember the linkage between our old generation, the way the world and the continent was back then and how it is now. Can we say to ourselves that what our parents were able to enjoy back in the olden days, we have the privilege now? Yeah, because I remember a lot of tales, a lot of stories that our parents would share with. I even remember books that we read in secondary schools, in primary schools, about how tortoise moved to this, and people playing. And these are the things that we need to start thinking and talk about. So, thank you very much for that very deep example, illustration, and the commitment you put. Now, let me quickly remind our guest, our speaker, sorry, our audience, that we are still live on Climate Wednesday, and the conversation is getting deeper. Biodiversity and nature-based solution. And our speaker here, Ambassador Richard Abubakar Umar, has been dishing out a lot of information that you will not want to miss. So if you are still somewhere else or your network is not working, you can still watch back again, because this is a very good conversation for, it's not only meant for Nigerians, it's meant for the all over the world, because example dishing out here is something that is concerned with the whole ecosystem and the way the world is going and moving into. So you can still send your questions so that we can ask our speaker online. And if you still have, I'm sure he's going to see it online as time goes on. So quick one, because we are about to rounding up, because you've already talked a lot about a lot of it. So, I don't want us to leave this kind of sector. This sector is very, very key, the private sector.
Yeah.
And you've talked a lot about innovations. You've talked a lot about youth engagement. You even talk about community-based engagement, which you are one of those kind of products. How do you want to talk about the role of the civil society, the role of the private sector in the nature-based solution? Because these people, don't let me complete my statement. Please.
But Olumide, to be frank, it's making me laugh. You know why it's making me laugh? Because actually, I'm trying to move into the private sector, but as a solution provider, as a solution provider, we just floated a new company now, 𝐸𝕓 Technologies. And that's what we're going to go into, harnessing local technologies as solutions, look at domesticating them. Because I've been in the forefront of trying to see, I've engaged both physically, both like on every platform I find myself, even when we were at the ECOWAS Forum of experts on carbon credit and how to apply for this GCF funding at the national level. I keep raising issues and solutions on nature-based solutions, things that we can do here, which I have been, like even the director, the focal person for climate change in Nigeria, 𝐁𝐢𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 I would tell her I'm coming to your office for us to discuss the level of us moving this conversation even to our secondary schools. We need to move this, like the storytelling you're saying, talking about. I saw a book like that in Lagos State. I've been privileged to be attending the Lagos Climate Summit and Lagos State, and I saw a cartoon, a comic book on climate change that is in circulation in primary schools in Lagos and secondary schools in Lagos. So these are the kind of conversations we need to go into. If government is dragging feet, we are to push them. We wouldn't say, I keep telling people that we have, civil society has left the era of being critics. We are now development partners. We are not only identifying the problem, but we suggest
Exactly.
solutions and see how we
Exactly.
can achieve. And goal 17 of the SDGs is partnership. How we can come up, okay, this is a challenge, this is a solution. How do we come and surmount this together? Because we cannot keep identifying this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. No solution. Private sector indeed are there for profit. I met one of my namesake, engineer Osagi. I mean Richard Osagi, I think is his name. We met at one of our conversation at CSDevNet, and he was telling me about a solar corridor. He was sharing a lot of. He's in the private sector, but all these are solutions that private sectors are providing. But the question is, how many of our political class are abreast with the information of climate change? Are they truly informed about how in danger we are? Are they truly informed about how our local communities need to understand? Are all the local government chairmen informed that climate change is a local problem, and they need to understand how their policies, how their engagement have to do with providing solutions and nature-based solution, local technologies that affect. You see, all these are conversations that we need to snowball, even to political parties, not even the private sector alone, even to political parties, so that it can form their ideology and part of their programs and activities and programs when they come into power. Like, for example, you see Kaduna State Governor conducting exams for APC party aspirants. You should understand he knows what he's doing and he knows the kind of stuff he wants to bring on board, even at the local level. So that when you generate conversations like this, they understand you. It's not about politics. It's about realities on ground and how do you hit the ground and create activities that provide solutions. So this has a lot. Private sector, though we have a lot of private sector driven, renewable driven companies. Like I can mention one, but a few, like Social Renewable Energy, where you have Hajia Habiba Ali. She's an advocate, she's a woman advocate, and she just finished launching with support from UK Aid, I think. She just finished launching 5 hubs using solar technology to dry food and fruits and vegetables in Kaduna State. She's launching them as I speak to you. I think last 2 weeks she have launched like the 3 locations. They are moving to the 2 locations now. I visited the site. I saw all these technologies, and these are nature-based solutions. Do you know the amount? We are talking about food crisis. Do you know the amount of food we lose annually? Do you know, because of nature-based solution, I'm into food processing as I speak to you. We process food that we're supposed to lose as waste. We are now processing them and keeping them, giving them shelf life for like 1 year, 2 years shelf life, so that they can be eaten and nutrients can be preserved. You understand? And all using solar and solar technology. You understand? Using renewable solar technology. So now, how do you inculcate nature-based solution to our local farmer to make him understand, like the farmer in Benue State, to make them understand? You need to travel to Benue, you will cry. They will bring tomato, 1 basket in the morning. They'll be ringing bell 1,000 naira, a whole big basket. By afternoon, the price will drop. By 12, it will drop to 700. By 3 o'clock in the evening, it's dropping to 500. By 4, 5, it is 200. They don't get a buyer, they throw the tomatoes away and bring a fresh one tomorrow. So how do you integrate renewable technology into drying those tomatoes, into reprocessing those tomatoes, and making them useful off-season? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So, and this off-season, they are going to make 3 times or 10 times the amount they are supposed to make in season. So you can imagine the economic drive. You can imagine how much government is losing in season during tomato season. This is just one out of many that I'm raising. So we need to see. Now CBN is giving loans, for example. Let me use this example. Admin's loan, giving loans. But you're not channeling the entrepreneurs into local businesses they can do to rejuvenate the economy. You're giving somebody 10 million, 5 million. He has never done business before. But if you're giving him, okay, we want you to go into tomato processing. We are going to give you machineries, this and you're going to use this as raw material. You see, you're creating an economy. You are now injecting money into green economy. And I'm an advocate of green economy. I wouldn't want to talk too much here because I told you already that I'm going to into the private sector, so that, you know, private sector, I have to think like a businessman, I'm not like a civil society man. Exactly. So already we are moving in, but I'm even finding it difficult to see where will I stand? Will I go to the private sector? Because my passion is to provide solution. This is how we intend to see how we can drive. And the only thing is we just need to have a pathway, create an enable environment. We have we have the population, we have the right workforce, we have unemployment. These are ways of addressing unemployment and generating and adding more value to our inflation problem, adding more value to our economic problem, and providing jobs and food on the table for families. And I think I can see the time is just 1 minute to go. So let me just pause here so that we can. So these are just the solutions that are nature-based. Seriously.
Wow, wow, wow. Another round of applause for you, my brother. That was so. This is kind of practical solutions that we are looking forward
Yeah.
to. Because if every sector, why I asked about private sector is because these guys, they are really doing fantastic work. And
Yeah.
it's just for them to now, like you said, to understand how it's affecting human and how they can invest more. Like one of my mentors keeps saying, investment opportunity. How are they carrying along the young people in the space? How are they making sure that everybody have their own role to play? We've promised 3:45, but I'm sure you are the one that extended time. But before you go, I give me like 3 minutes more to end the conversation. So we always have this culture, because you've said a lot of things on this call. And I'm sure that everybody that will come back and watch, we definitely have 1 or 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
So please, if you are still watching from anywhere across the world, you can still send your question to our guest speaker, both on social media. Is on Twitter. You can check him on board on Twitter. You can send a question after you finish watching this video or this live video, or when you rewatch this, try to send your question, because it's so interesting. When I know this, my brother, he was not in the private sector, but now he's making a live publication that yes, he will be going into private sector. And as much as we can, please let us all come together and make this ecosystem a better place, because nature-based solution is the only way presently. And to end our call, I want you to give us your I don't want to call it farewell. Your take home. What do you want the people that is watching you? What do you want to tell them? Like your call to action for the government, for the people, for the civil society and private sector. What is going to be your very key word for everybody before you leave?
Well, the key word I would want to give to everybody watching now is, I will call on government, one, to please create more atmosphere for conversations on climate change across board. Like the Minister for Environment should see how we can be more engaging at our National Council on Environment, to see how we can have a pragmatic approach. The era of too much talk is over. We have to move into matching action, where we'll see things on the ground, where we'll see actions being taken, where we can cite references. Like, for example, I want to especially call on the Katsina State Governor, Governor Masari, to please finish the windmill renewable energy project started by his predecessor. These are notable projects that we can make reference to as Nigerians and be proud of anywhere we go, that we are really we are taking advantage of our natural environment to provide solutions for our natives in their localities. We need to see more action. We need to see more proactiveness, and state governors need to act, and we need to really understand that climate change is here to stay with us, and we need to create this conversation and take it even to the local grassroots level. Let the people understand. And I want to pay tribute to the late Emir of Borgu. Now we have a new Emir. The late Emir of Borgu, as of 2013, when he hosted us for a West African Greens meeting in Borgu, in his domain at the national park. And this is an emir that at that time was in putting laws in place. Any district head that is caught in tree felling business or charcoal production will cost his traditional title. You see, these are strong policies at local levels. He was even, it earned him an award from West African Greens, which when our West African Greens coordinators, they said they need to make him a green ambassador. But he's of blessed memories now. And I hope the new emir is moving on the laid down precedent his predecessor left for him, his father left for him, because these are legacies that will live to stand in Pergu. It is the part of Niger State that you will hear of tree felling. If you fell tree in Pergu, the district head is in trouble. You understand? So these are notable things. Then government need to put, like Niger State government have laws on deforestation. Good. They have a green guards. They have task force on deforestation. But it's not only Niger. We need to see. Go to Kaduna now. You see trees. You see a market for fuel wood. So we need to be more proactive. And we, the people, need to understand that. But we need to have the alternatives first. So government need to push further to see how they can work on easy and affordable alternatives for native dwellers, and see how we can have realistic, rejuvenated, and a rebranded green economy program that can carry everybody along, and see how it can exchange all these lucrative businesses they see in causing damages for our forests and for our existence are left behind, and they see other lucrative green businesses. We have a lot of green businesses, and that's why we are moving into the private sector, so that we can provide all these alternatives and see how we can add more value from that direction. So please, it's not all about us. It's not all about Olumide. It's not all about me. It's not all about us in the climate change sector. It's about everything you do, from your trash, from your pure water, sachet water, nylon, you drink your water and drop, from your bottled water, from your waste bin that you drop. Please know that for every activity you do has an effect on the environment and on the climate. And if we can really, really see how government can really harness Olumide, green economy is the new normal. I'm telling you, the way what they call it, real estate started and people didn't understand. That's what I want to tell the world now. The green economy is where the world is going, and we need to act now before it becomes something that will be struggling to come in. It's something that we all have a role to play, and we all have seen it. Now, let me give one last example before I round up. You see scavengers now. We don't have scavengers again. Young people move with trolleys now to pick can bottles, plastic bottles, even what they call it, paper packs now, cartons. Cartons now are being collected because they are being weighed and recycled. We have recycling plants now in Lagos, in Ogun State, that are collecting this. Now, around here, you see young people opening recycling points where they buy all these things. So people now make money out of recycling. So, but government needs to push a little hand in it and create a platform, maybe where we can start having sorted bins, where you can sort bottles, plastic, polythene, and metal, and all this, so that it will be easy for our waste managers to know how to really see how organic waste can be translated into organic manure, and the metals can be recycled, reducing the stress of reproduction, which causes a lot of effect to the to our climate. So I want everybody to adopt the 3 R's of waste management as a virtue. Let's see how we can reduce waste. Let's see how we can reuse waste, and let's see how we can recycle waste. If you can do this at your individual level, then definitely we can make this climate a better place for all of us.
Another round of applause, my brother. Thank you very much.
You're just watching me this one. You're making me.
Thank you very much. No. You can see the way I was listening to you, because this is the kind of advice, or the kind of implementation we are looking towards, to make sure that the so-called build back better and the so-called green economy will be the next phase that we are talking about, because it's the next golden opportunity for somebody like us and the other people across the world. But my take home today is government should create more atmosphere for climate conversation, because it's from this conversation that we can now get the idea of what people want to see and what people are actually doing. You know, it makes me to think deep, that how am I connected to nature? It makes me to think by closing my eyes, pretending I'm in paradise or in somewhere that is very, very clean. Let me call it Just City, and opening my eyes and see myself in Oshodi, where pollution is happening. And I will ask myself, what is the connection between nature and the people? What is the connection between nature and every sector? How are you making sure that the environment is more conducive for you? How are you making sure that you understand the narrative before you talk about the solution? So I'm very happy today because I can't even count how many examples you've given on this platform, from the north to south to west to to east. It has been so very wonderful to have you on this call. And on this note, I want to appreciate you on behalf of International Climate Change Development Initiative, on behalf of the board, on behalf of my friends, my family, my colleagues, everybody across the world. I want to appreciate you for coming on board today to share with us from your wealth of knowledge on the biodiversity and nature-based adaptation. And this conversation this month, you've actually given us, you've ushered us into a bigger picture of what we need to be talking about. You've brought in technology conversation, you've brought in government input, you've brought in private sectors, you've brought in young people innovation, and you've also brought in what we need to be doing as an example for our environment to be more sustainable. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. And we hope when we call on you any other time, you'll be able to come back. So thank you very much.
I'm always here. Thank you very much. I'm most welcome. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. I'm super excited because we've been able to have this conversation, and I can tell you, Ambassador Richard was so loaded with information on the nature-based solution. And I can tell you that this week, this month, we're going to be having a very, very deep conversation. And we don't want to only have conversation, we want to have conversation that shows examples of what people are doing and how people are connecting to the nature. Because our nature is very, very, important to us. Like I said, our nature is our infrastructure, is our backbone. And unless we continue to see how we can harness the power in the face, we are now, that is the only way we can achieve the green economy. COVID-19 has shown us how the environment is very important. COVID-19 has shown us how we need to take care of nature. And COVID-19 has also shown us how we are connecting to the nature. And it has started becoming clearer that in the face of climate change, the conventional way of building infrastructure will not be sustainable in the long term. And as recent, we see the issue of the wildlife fire issue in Australia and in Brazil, flood from the Southern Asia, and a lot of things have shown us that the impact of climate change are already upon us. And and the impact is all part of the world. So building back better, or building better, will make us to understand that our connection to nature is very, very important. So let us see nature as a life wire to ourselves. Let us see nature as an infrastructure. Let us see nature as development, because we don't have any other planet. We only have this planet. So I want to wish everybody a good evening. Thank you for joining us on this conversation today on the topic of biodiversity and nature-based solution. I hope next week we want to have you again on another topic, another guest, another conversation. Let me also say that for you that you are not live now, you can still watch this conversation later on this show. So thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Ambassador Richard, for coming on board to speak to us on this conversation today. I want to wish everybody good luck in what you are doing. Make sure as much as possible, connect to nature. Understand the narrative before you go into the solution. Because if you don't understand the narrative of the problem, the solution will never come to play. So I wish everybody good luck and have a good evening. Thank you and bye.